The world moved faster than anyone expected. Within days, construction began on the extraction facilities. Scientists from every nation worked together, sharing ideas and resources. Engineer Jin Ho led the technical team, working 20-hour days to solve problems that had never been solved before. The vellum recovered slowly. The emergency rations helped, but they were still weak. Dr. Heywan spent her time studying their biology, learning everything she could about how they worked. The vellum were fascinating. They were part plant, part animal. They could eat regular food for energy, but they needed the special minerals to survive. Without them, their bodies would slowly shut down. It's like humans needing vitamin C, Heywan explained to her team. You can eat all the food you want, but without that one thing, you'll die anyway. On Earth, not everyone was happy about the decision to help. Some people protested. They said humanity should focus on its own problems first. Earth was still recovering from the resource wars. Many places still struggled with food and water. Why spend money on aliens? But most people disagreed. Most people remembered what it felt like to be desperate and alone. 3 weeks after the rescue, something unexpected happened. A vellum scientist named Kira was working with Dr. Heywan in the laboratory. They were studying soil samples from Earth, trying to understand what plants needed to grow better. The vellum were botanical experts. Their entire civilization had been built around understanding and nurturing plant life. Kira noticed something strange in the waste container. All living things produce waste, and the vellum were no different. But their waste was unusual. It formed small crystals, clear and bright like diamonds. What do you do with human waste? Kira asked through the translator. We process it, Heywan said. Turn it into fertilizer sometimes. Why? Kira picked up one of the crystals. Her golden eyes were wide with excitement. May I test something? With your soil? They ran the test that afternoon. They took depleted soil from a failed farm and mixed it with the vellum crystals. Then they planted seeds, regular wheat seeds that any human farmer would use. What happened next shocked everyone. The seeds sprouted in 3 hours instead of 3 days. By the end of the week, they had full-grown wheat plants. The yield was 3 times higher than normal. The plants were healthier, stronger, and needed 60% less water. Heywan ran the tests again. Then again, then a third time. The results were always the same. The vellum waste crystals, when mixed with earth soil, created perfect growing conditions. She called Taijin immediately. You need to see this. Right now. When he arrived at the lab, she showed him the data. Taijin stared at the numbers, not quite believing what he was seeing. This is real? This actually works? It works, Heywan confirmed. And there's more. The effect is permanent. The soil stays fertile for years. It can reverse desertification. It can restore dead farmland. It can make food production 80% more efficient. Taijin sat down heavily. This could change everything. It could end world hunger, Heywan said quietly. They brought Nira to the laboratory. They showed her the results. She looked at the data for a long time, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke. We want to give you this, she said. Freely, no cost. No trade, a gift. Nira, do you understand what this means? Taijin asked. This technology is worth trillions. You could ask for anything. We understand, Nira said. She reached out and touched one of the wheat plants growing in the lab. You saved our children. You gave us hope when we had none. You spent your resources on strangers. How could we ask for payment? There were tears in her eyes now. In our culture, there is a saying. The tree that receives water shares its shade. You gave us water when we were dying. Now we share what we have. The news spread across Earth like wildfire. The data was shared openly, available to any farmer anywhere. The vellum didn't patent it. They didn't restrict it. They simply gave it to humanity. Bora was a farmer in South Korea. Her family had worked the same land for 5 generations, but the soil was nearly dead. Years of chemical fertilizers and poor management had destroyed it. She was about to lose everything. When she heard about the vellum crystals, she didn't believe it. It sounded too good to be true. But she was desperate, so she signed up for the pilot program. They delivered the crystals in a small container. The instructions were simple. Mix them into the soil. Plant normally. Bora planted rice. She had planted rice 100 times before. She knew exactly what to expect. 5 months of careful work, constant irrigation, minimal yield. The rice sprouted in 2 days. It grew fast and strong. It needed less than half the water she normally used. When harvest time came, she couldn't believe her eyes. Her yield was triple what she had ever produced before. She called the Agriculture Ministry. It works. It actually works. Within months, farms around the world were using the vellum crystals. The effects were even better than the initial tests suggested. Desert regions that hadn't grown anything in decades suddenly bloomed with life. The Sahara showed patches of green for the first time in thousands of years. The Australian outback became fertile. Agricultural Minister Sang Woo presented the data to the United Nations. The numbers were stunning. World hunger could be eliminated within 10 years. Food shortages would become a thing of the past. The environmental benefits were equally impressive. Less water needed meant less strain on resources. Restored soil meant healthier ecosystems. This gift from the vellum has changed everything, Sang Woo said to the assembly. They gave us hope. They gave us a future. The question now is, what do we give them in return? Meanwhile, Jinho's team completed the extraction facilities. The massive structures pumped ocean water through complex filters, pulling out the mineral compounds the vellum needed. It had taken 3 months of non-stop work, but it was done. The vellum fleet arrived 2 weeks later, 8,000 survivors in ships that barely held together. When they saw the extraction facilities, when they realized that humanity had built them specifically to help, many of them cried. "You did this for us?" An elderly vellum asked Taejin. "But you barely know us." "We know enough," Taejin replied. "We know you needed help. We know you're good people. We know you gave us something incredible when you had no reason to." The vellum were given temporary housing on the Aurora station and on 3 other stations that were quickly prepared for them. They weren't prisoners or refugees in the negative sense. They were guests, protected, cared for, safe. Diplomat Yu Jin was assigned to work with the vellum leaders. Her job was to figure out the next steps. Where would they live? What would happen to them? "What do you want?" she asked Nira one day. "What would make you happy?" Nira looked out the window at Earth below. "We want a home. We want our children to grow up somewhere safe. We want to be part of something again. We lost our world, our culture, everything. We don't want to lose ourselves too." Yu Jin understood. The vellum needed more than just survival. They needed a future. That night she wrote a proposal. She worked all night typing and retyping, trying to get it right. By morning she had something she thought might work. She sent it to every government on Earth. The title was simple: "How do we repay the impossible gift?" The responses came quickly. Some said give them land on Earth, others said give them money. Still others suggested building them ships to find a new planet. But one response stood out. It came from Commander Taejin. "They gave us our world back," he wrote. "Maybe we should give them theirs." The idea was crazy, impossible. It would take years and cost more money than any project in human history. But the more people thought about it, the more it made sense. The vellum had saved humanity from hunger and ecological collapse. They had done it freely, asking for nothing. They had shown humanity kindness at the darkest moment of their own existence. How do you repay that kind of gift? The answer, humanity decided, was simple. You give them everything you can. You give them hope. You give them a future. You give them a world. The proposal reached the United Nations on a Tuesday morning. By Tuesday night, every news channel in the world was talking about it. Build the vellum a new world, not find them one. Build one. The debate started immediately. In living rooms, in government chambers, in schools and offices, people argued about what humanity should do. Some said it was too expensive. Others said it was impossible. Many said it was the right thing to do, even if it was difficult. Captain Kijun commanded the fleet that orbited Earth, protecting the vellum ships. He watched from his bridge as spontaneous celebrations broke out across the planet. People held rallies supporting the project. Children made signs. "Help our friends," they read. "The vellum saved us." "I've never seen anything like this," his second officer said. People actually agreeing on something. Kijun smiled. Maybe they needed something to believe in. Something good. But not everyone was celebrating. In a conference room in Geneva, the Earth Council gathered to discuss the practical realities. The costs would be enormous. The technology barely existed. It would take years, maybe decades. We're talking about building a habitat large enough for 8,000 people, possibly more, said Economic Minister Jae Sung. He was young for his position, known for being careful with money. The resources required would be staggering. The resources they gave us are equally staggering, replied Environmental Minister Nari. She was an older woman, deeply religious, who saw the Vellum gift as almost divine. They ended world hunger. They restored our planet. How do you put a price on that? Admiral Do-hyun, who had initially opposed helping the Vellum, stood up. Everyone fell silent. His opinion carried weight. I was wrong, he said simply. When that ship first arrived, I was afraid. I let fear guide me. But these people showed us something we had forgotten. They showed us what real sacrifice looks like, what real generosity looks like. If we turn our backs on them now, we prove we learned nothing. The room erupted in discussion. Scientist Yoonji raised her hand for quiet. I think we're asking the wrong question, she said. We're asking what we can afford. We should be asking what the Vellum actually need. It was a good point. Dr. Hae-won was called to the meeting. She brought data, charts, biological studies. She had spent months studying the Vellum, understanding them better than anyone. The Vellum are photosynthetic, she explained. They get energy from sunlight like plants. But they're also emotional, social, intelligent beings like us. Their homeworld was covered in forests, gardens, living ecosystems. They didn't just live on their planet. They lived with it. They were part of it. She showed pictures that the Vellum had shared. Their lost world had been beautiful. Trees that reached the clouds, flowers that glowed at night, rivers that sang with life. It wasn't just a planet. It had been paradise. They don't just need shelter, Hae-won continued. They need nature. They need growing things. They need beauty. Without it, they'll survive, but they won't truly live. The room was quiet. Everyone understood what that meant. This wasn't about building apartments in space. This was about recreating an entire ecosystem. Commander Tae-jin had been working with xeno-architect So-hyun for weeks. She was brilliant, a specialist in designing structures for hostile environments. Together, they had drafted plans for something unprecedented. They presented their proposal to the council. The holographic display showed a massive structure rotating slowly in space. A Stanford torus, they called it. A ring-shaped habitat almost 2 kilometers across, large enough for thousands of people, advanced enough to support complete ecosystems. It would have forests, rivers, even mountains, So-hyun explained. The hologram zoomed in, showing different sections. We can create multiple biomes, different environments for different needs. The Vellum can help us design it, make it feel like home. How long would this take? Asked Minister Jae-sung. 3 years, Tae-jin said. Maybe 4. But we can build temporary habitats first. Generation ships that the Vellum can live in while we construct the main habitat. And the cost? Less than you'd think, said Jin-ho, who had done the calculations. We have asteroid mining operations. We have the materials. We have the technology. What we need is cooperation. Every space-capable nation working together. Every corporation contributing. This can't be one country's project. It has to be humanity's project. The debate went on for days. Some council members worried about setting a precedent. What if more aliens came asking for help? Could humanity build a habitat for everyone? Maybe we can't save everyone, Nari said passionately. But we can save these people. We can show the galaxy what humanity stands for. We can prove that kindness isn't weakness, that generosity isn't foolishness. We can be the species that helps, not the species that hoards. Young Delegate Minho, representing the Youth Council, spoke next. My generation grew up during the resource wars. We saw what happens when people only think about themselves. When nations only care about their own survival. It almost destroyed us. The Vellum showed us a different way. They had nothing and they still gave. If we don't match that generosity, what are we teaching the next generation? During the debates, something beautiful was happening outside the formal meetings. Humans and Vellum were learning about each other. Cultural exchanges began. Vellum teachers shared their knowledge of botanical sciences. Human teachers shared art, music, history. Bora, the farmer whose land had been saved by the Vellum crystals, started a program. She invited Vellum families to visit her farm. She showed them the rice growing in soil they had helped restore. The Vellum children played with human children, laughing despite the language barriers. They're not that different from us, Bora told a reporter. They love their children. They miss their home. They want to build something good. How are those things alien? In laboratories, Dr. Hae-won made another discovery. When humans and Vellum worked together on scientific problems, they achieved breakthroughs at incredible speeds. The two species thought differently. They saw problems from different angles. What was difficult for humans was easy for Vellum. What confused Vellum made perfect sense to humans. We're not just helping them, Hay1 reported to the council. They're helping us become better, smarter, more creative. This partnership benefits everyone. The vote was scheduled for Friday. The entire world watched. Every news channel broadcast the proceedings. Children sat in classrooms learning about democracy in action. People gathered in public squares to see the decision on giant screens. One by one, the council members voted. The count was close. Some nations worried about the costs. Some worried about the precedent. Some simply needed more time to think. But in the end, compassion won. The final vote was 63 in favor, 37 against. It was enough. The decision was made. Humanity would build the Vellum a new world. When the results were announced, the celebrations were even bigger than before. In Seoul, in New York, in Lagos, in Sao Paulo, people danced in the streets. The Vellum, watching from their ships, wept with joy and disbelief. Nira was brought before the council. She was shaking, overwhelmed by emotion. "I don't understand," she said through her tears. "Why would you do this? We are nothing to you. We are just refugees, just survivors." Taejin stepped forward. "You're not nothing. You're the people who showed us who we want to be. You had every reason to be selfish, to keep your technology for yourselves, to bargain and trade. Instead, you gave freely. You showed us that kindness isn't naive. It's powerful. It changes things." He looked around at the council, at the cameras broadcasting to billions of people. "You asked why we're doing this. The answer is simple. Because you deserve it. Because it's right. Because when someone shows you kindness, you don't just repay it. You honor it. You prove it wasn't wasted." Yu Jin, the diplomat, added her own thoughts. "The Vellum gave us our world back. They ended hunger. They restored our ecosystems. But more than that, they reminded us what it means to be good. To be generous. To care about others even when you have nothing. That's worth more than any technology. That's worth everything." The next day, construction began. Ships launched from Earth, heading to the asteroid belt. Mining operations expanded. Factories retooled their production lines. Scientists from every nation gathered to share knowledge and solve problems. The greatest construction project in human history had begun, and somewhere in orbit. Watching the ships come and go, Nira held her daughter and cried. They were tears of joy this time. Tears of hope. "Are we really getting a new home?" her daughter asked. "Yes," Nira whispered. "We're getting a miracle." The construction ships left Earth orbit in a steady stream. Captain Ki-jun commanded the fleet that escorted them to the asteroid belt. Behind him, mining vessels followed, ready to extract the metals and materials needed for the greatest building project humanity had ever attempted. "It's really happening," his second officer said, watching the parade of ships on the view screen. "It's really happening," Ki-jun agreed. He thought about his grandmother who had survived the resource wars. She had told him stories about that terrible time, when nations fought over scraps and nobody trusted anyone. Now here was humanity, spending its resources to help aliens they had known for only a few months. Maybe people could change after all. On Earth, the temporary habitats were being prepared. 3-generation ships, originally designed for deep space exploration, were retrofitted for the Vellum. Engineer Jin Ho oversaw the modifications personally. Each ship needed to support complete life systems for the botanical aliens. "They need more than air and water," Jin Ho explained to his team. "They need specific light frequencies. They need soil. They need growing plants around them. Think of it like building a forest that can fly." The first habitat was ready in 2 months. It wasn't fancy, but it was comfortable. When the Vellum moved in, they brought seeds from their ships. Within days, the sterile metal corridors were covered in vines and flowering plants. The air smelled like spring. Dr. Haywan visited regularly, monitoring their health and happiness. "It's working," she reported. "They're thriving. But they keep asking about the main habitat, about when it will be ready." "Tell them 3 years," Taejin said. "Maybe 4. These things take time." But the Vellum didn't just wait. They helped. Their knowledge of biological systems was centuries ahead of human understanding. They taught human engineers how to create sustainable ecosystems, how to make soil that would last forever, how to design water systems that mimicked natural rivers. Vellum scientist Kira worked alongside Jinho's engineering team. She was brilliant, seeing solutions to problems that had stumped human engineers for weeks. Your species thinks in straight lines, she told them. Efficient and direct. But nature doesn't work that way. Nature spirals and curves. Let me show you. She redesigned the water system for the main habitat. Instead of pumps and filters, she created a system that worked like a natural watershed. Rain would fall, flow downhill, collect in lakes, evaporate, and rain again. It was beautiful and needed almost no maintenance. This is genius, Jinho said, studying the designs. Why didn't we think of this? Because you're not a forest person, Kira said simply. We are. We understand how ecosystems work because we were part of one. Now we teach you. The cultural exchange deepened. Velim teachers started classes on Earth. Human children learned about botany and ecosystem management from beings who had lived it for thousands of years. Human teachers went to the temporary habitats, teaching Velim about human history, art, and culture. Young Sua was 7 years old when she met her first Velim. His name was Talo, and he was also 7. They couldn't speak each other's language at first, but they played together anyway. They drew pictures. They built things. They became friends. He's not scary, Sua told her mother. He's just different. Like how Minho is good at math and I'm good at drawing. We're just different kinds of good. Stories like this happened across the world. Prejudice never had a chance to take root because humans and Velim knew each other as individuals, not as stereotypes. In the construction zone, the main habitat was taking shape. The ring structure grew slowly, section by section. It was massive, almost 2 kilometers in diameter. When it spun, it would create artificial gravity. When it was finished, it would hold forests and mountains and rivers. Architect So-hyun worked 18-hour days, coordinating thousands of workers across dozens of ships. She had designed every section with input from the Velim. The habitat needed to feel like home for them. Show me the forest section again, she said to her Velim advisor. An old gardener named Wix. The hologram displayed a massive area filled with trees. The trees need to be tall, Wix explained. On our world, some grew 300 meters high. The Velim need to feel that sense of height, of living beneath a canopy. It's part of who we are. 300 meters? So-hyun did some quick calculations. That's going to be challenging with the artificial gravity. But I think we can do it. You're spending so much effort on making us comfortable, Wix said quietly. On making it beautiful, why? You could build something simpler, cheaper. So-hyun turned to face him. Because beauty matters. Because home isn't just a place to survive. It's a place where you thrive. Where you're happy. Where you can build a future. You gave us that. We're going to give it back to you. Year 1 passed. The skeleton of the habitat was complete. The basic structure was solid, ready for the interior work to begin. On Earth, the agricultural revolution continued. The Velim crystals had restored farmland across the planet. Food production had increased by 200%. Hunger was becoming rare. The economic reports are staggering, Minister Jae-sung told the council. The Velim gift has created more wealth in 1 year than the entire tech boom of the previous century. We can afford this project twice over and still have money left. Year 2 brought the interior construction. Human and Velim workers labored side by side, building mountains from rock and asteroids, creating river systems, planting the first forests. Every tree was chosen carefully. Every plant selected for its role in the ecosystem. Agricultural expert Bora was invited to join the habitat team. She brought her expertise in soil management and her friendship with many Velim families. I want to make sure this is perfect, she said. These people saved my farm. They saved my life. I owe them everything. She worked with Velim farmers to design agricultural sections. Places where Velim could grow food using their traditional methods. Places that would feel familiar and comforting. During this time, something special happened. A Velim woman named Nira, the elder who had first spoken to Taijin during the rescue, met a human named Jae-sung. He was a librarian, managing one of Earth's largest digital archives. He had volunteered to help catalog Velim history and culture before it was lost. They spent months working together. Nira told him stories of the old world. Jae-sung recorded everything, preserving it for future generations. Slowly, friendship became something more. They fell in love. My people think I'm crazy, Nira admitted one day, falling in love with a human. We're so different. My friends think I'm crazy too, Jae-sung replied, smiling. But I don't care. You showed me that beauty exists beyond Earth. That connection transcends species. That love is universal. Their relationship became symbolic, proof that humans and Vellum weren't just allies. They were becoming family. Year 3 arrived. The habitat was nearly complete. The forests had been planted and were growing rapidly with Vellum help. The rivers flowed clear and clean. Mountains rose toward the curved ceiling, creating the sense of vastness the Vellum needed. It was beautiful beyond words. The naming ceremony was planned. The Vellum had asked to name it themselves. They chose New Velen after their lost world, but they added something. The full name would be New Velentera, combining their world's name with Earth's Latin name. A symbol of their partnership. Commander Tai Jin walked through the completed sections with Nira. She was crying, overwhelmed by what she saw. "It's like home," she whispered. "You rebuilt our world. How did you do this?" "You taught us," Tai Jin said simply. "Every detail came from Vellum guidance. We just built what you described, what you needed." "No," Nira shook her head. "You did more than that. You built our dreams. You took our memories and made them real again. You gave us back what we thought was lost forever." They stood on a hilltop overlooking a valley filled with trees. In the distance, a waterfall cascaded down artificial cliffs. Birds that had been brought from Earth flew overhead. The Vellum would introduce their own animals later, carefully, maintaining ecological balance. "This is home," Nira said firmly. "This is where our children will grow up, where our culture will survive. Because of humanity, because you cared." The dedication ceremony was broadcast across Earth and to every human settlement in the solar system. Billions watched as the first Vellum families walked through the main entrance of New Velentera. Children ran ahead laughing with joy. Elders moved slowly, touching trees and flowers, weeping with happiness. Speaker after speaker addressed the crowd. Admiral Do-hyun spoke about overcoming fear. Minister Nari spoke about the power of compassion. Young Minho spoke about building a better future. But the most powerful speech came from a Vellum child. Nira's daughter, now 10 years old, stood before the cameras and spoke in perfect English. "Thank you for giving us tomorrow," she said simply. "We will never forget." That night, as New Velentera began its slow rotation and artificial gravity took hold, the first sunset painted the artificial sky orange and gold. Families gathered on hillsides to watch, human and Vellum together, celebrating the impossible thing they had built. In orbit around Earth, the new habitat glowed like a second moon, a testament to what people could achieve when they chose kindness over fear, when they chose to build instead of destroy. The greatest gift had been given, and it was only the beginning. 5 years had passed since the Vellum first arrived at Earth. New Velentera thrived in orbit, a jewel of green and blue spinning slowly against the stars. The Vellum population had grown to 12,000. Children who had never known the original Velen ran through forests their parents had only dreamed of seeing again. On Earth, the partnership continued. Mixed communities existed in several countries where Velim had chosen to live among humans, rather than in the orbital habitat. They worked in universities, on farms, and laboratories. They were no longer refugees. They were neighbors, friends, family. Dr. Haywan, now the director of the Xenobiological Institute, published papers with Vellum scientists regularly. Their collaboration had advanced human understanding of biology by decades. New medicines had been developed. New agricultural techniques perfected. The combination of human engineering and Velim biological knowledge seemed limitless. Then, on a Tuesday morning, everything changed again. The signal came from deep space. A distress call. Another species was in trouble. Commander Tai Jin, now promoted to admiral, was the first to hear it. He was older now, his hair streaked with gray, but his eyes were still sharp, still kind. He listened to the desperate message repeating across multiple frequencies. "This is the Therum vessel Wanderer. We are fleeing war and famine. 3,000 survivors. We have children. We are dying. Please, anyone, help." Tai Jin felt his heart clench. He remembered another distress call 5 years ago. Another group of desperate refugees asking for help. He called an emergency meeting of the Earth Council. Admiral Do-hyun, now retired but still influential, joined by video link. Minister Nari was there, Captain Ki-jun, Dr. Hai-wan, and several Vellum representatives, including Nira. Another refugee crisis, Minister Jae-sung said heavily. "The Therum are 40 light-years away. We'd need to send ships immediately if we want to help them in time." "What do we know about them?" Ki-jun asked. Nothing, Haywan said. We've never made contact with the Therum before. We don't know their biology, their culture, their needs. This would be starting from zero. The room fell silent. Everyone remembered how difficult it had been with the Vellum, how much it had cost, how much effort it had taken. Admiral Do-hyun spoke first. I was wrong about helping the Vellum. I let fear guide me. I won't make that mistake twice. We should help the Therum, but can we? Someone asked. We just finished building New Velen Terra. Our resources are stretched. Maybe we should focus on ourselves for a while. Nira stood up. Her voice was calm but firm. When we came to Earth, we expected nothing. We hoped only that someone might hear our call before we died. Humanity didn't just hear us. You saved us. You gave us everything. If Earth turns away from the Therum now, what message does that send? She's right, Taejin said. We set a precedent when we helped the Vellum. We told the galaxy who humanity is. What we stand for. We can't go back on that now. The vote was quick. Everyone agreed. Earth would send ships to help the Therum. The rescue mission launched within days. Captain Kijun commanded the fleet. Aboard his ship was a Vellum delegation led by Nira's daughter, now a young adult and a skilled botanist. They brought the crystal enzyme technology, offering it as a gift to the Therum just as it had been given to humanity. We know what it's like to be desperate, she explained to Kijun. We know what it means when someone helps. We want to pass that forward. The mission was successful. The Therum were saved. They were different from humans and Vellum, insect-like beings with compound eyes and chitinous shells. But they were people. They had children. They had culture and dreams and hope. They cried when they learned that humanity had come just to help them. That there would be no demands, no strings attached. Why? Their leader asked through translators. Why would you do this for strangers? Kijun smiled. Because someone did it for us. Because it's the right thing to do. Because this is what we've chosen to be. The news of Earth's second rescue mission spread through the galaxy like a shockwave. Other species watching from their distant worlds couldn't believe it. In the galactic community, such generosity was unheard of. Most species operated on strict trade principles. Everything had a cost. Everything required payment. But Earth was different. Earth helped because people needed help. Simple as that. Within a year, 3 more refugee groups contacted Earth. The Kalathi fleeing environmental collapse. The Centauris displaced by civil war. The Havocs surviving a plague that had destroyed their civilization. Earth couldn't save them all alone. But they didn't have to. The Vellum helped. Their habitat became a template. Their crystal technology was shared freely. Together, human and Vellum engineers designed new habitats, smaller and faster to build. Engineer Jinho, working with Kira and a team of the best minds from both species, developed modular habitats that could be constructed in months instead of years. They were efficient, comfortable, and could support multiple species with different biological needs. We're getting good at this, Jinho said, reviewing the latest designs. Maybe too good. What do you mean? Kira asked. I mean, what if this becomes expected? What if species start depending on us? What if we can't keep up? Kira touched his shoulder gently. Then we do what we can. We help who we can. We don't let fear of failure stop us from trying. The Aurora Initiative was founded in 2162, 7 years after the Vellum first arrived. It was a joint human-Vellum organization dedicated to helping refugees and desperate species across the galaxy. They built mobile hospital habitats. They trained rapid response teams. They shared technology freely with anyone who needed it. The funding came from Earth's prosperity. The agricultural revolution created by the Vellum crystals had made Earth wealthier than anyone had imagined possible. Food was abundant. Resources plentiful. Earth could afford to be generous. We have enough, Minister Nari explained in one of her speeches. More than enough. And when you have enough, the only moral choice is to share. Young people from Earth and New Velen Terra joined the initiative in droves, humans and Vellum working together, traveling to distant stars to help people in need. They became known across the galaxy. The helpers, the ones who came when everyone else turned away. Agricultural expert Bora, now running one of the largest farms on Earth, trained volunteers in rapid agricultural recovery. The Vellum crystals can restore any ecosystem, she taught them. But you need to understand the local conditions. Every planet is different. Every species has different needs. Listen first, then help. Dr. Haywan's daughter, following in her mother's footsteps, developed protocols for understanding alien biology quickly. You don't need to know everything, she explained. You just need to know enough to keep them alive until you can learn more. Fast triage, then detailed care. Diplomat Yu Jin, now heading the Earth's Galactic Relations Office, represented humanity at the first Galactic Assembly that Earth was invited to join. It was a historic moment. Earth, the young species standing before the old civilizations. She gave a speech that would be remembered for generations. We are humanity, she began. We are new to the stars. We have made terrible mistakes. We have fought wars. We have hurt each other. We have nearly destroyed ourselves. But we learned. We changed. We chose to be better. She paused, looking around at the hundreds of alien species watching her. The Velum came to us asking for help. They had nothing to offer. No trade goods. No technology we needed. Just desperate people hoping for kindness. We helped them because it was right. And they gave us the greatest gift we could imagine. They showed us who we could be. Now we try to pass that forward, not because we expect rewards, not because we want praise, but because we remember what it feels like to be desperate, to be afraid, to wonder if anyone in the universe cares whether you live or die. We care. Humanity cares. The Velum care. We care about the Therum and the Calathi and the Centaurs and every other species that needs help. Not because we're special, but because caring is what makes life worth living. The assembly was silent when she finished. Then slowly one representative began to applaud. Then another. Then dozens. It wasn't universal. Some species were skeptical. Some thought humanity was naive. But many were moved. 40 years after the Velum first arrived, Commander Tae Jin was an old man. He walked slowly now, his body worn by time. But his mind was still sharp. He sat in a garden in New Velin-Terra with Nira, who had also aged gracefully. They watched children play below, human and Velum and Therum and Calathi all mixed together. They spoke different languages but somehow understood each other anyway. Do you ever regret it? Nira asked him. That first decision to let us in? Tae Jin smiled. Every day for the last 40 years someone has asked me that, and every day my answer is the same, no. Never, not for a second, he pointed to the children. Look at them. That's our legacy. Not the habitats we built or the technology we shared. Them. A generation that grew up believing that helping others is normal, that kindness is strength, that caring about strangers is just what good people do. The galaxy knows what humanity stands for now, Nira said. You don't conquer. You don't exploit. You help. We learned that from you, Tae Jin replied. You taught us. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the artificial landscape. The alarm screamed through the Aurora space station at 3 a.m. Commander Tae Jin rolled out of his bed and grabbed his uniform. Something was coming toward Earth, and it was coming fast. He ran to the command center. The screen showed a ship that looked like nothing he had ever seen before. It was spinning slowly, pieces of metal floating away from its damaged hull. Smoke or gas leaked from a dozen holes in its side. Sir, they're broadcasting a message, said Officer Minsu, his voice tight with worry. It's in multiple languages. They're asking for help. Tae Jin leaned forward and listened to the crackling transmission. The words were broken and strange, but he could understand them. Please, help. Dying. Children aboard, please. It could be a trick, said Admiral Do-hyun through the video link from Earth. His old face was hard and suspicious. Remember the war. Remember what happened when we trusted too quickly. Tae Jin remembered. Everyone remembered. 30 years ago, humanity had nearly destroyed itself because nations couldn't trust each other. The resource wars had killed millions. But this was different. This was a ship full of dying people asking for help. I'm authorizing a rescue mission, Tae Jin said firmly. Commander, I strongly advise against this. Do-hyun replied. We don't know what's on that ship. I know what's on that ship, Tae Jin said quietly. People who need help. Just like we needed help during the wars. Just like we wished someone had helped us. He cut the transmission before the Admiral could argue more. Minsu, get me a team. Medical engineering security. Full hazard suits. We're going in. The rescue shuttle approached the damaged alien vessel carefully. Through the windows, Tae Jin could see the extent of the damage. The ship looked like it had been through hell. Burn marks covered the hull. Some sections were completely torn away. "Reading life signs," reported Dr. Haywan, the station's chief medical officer. She was young but brilliant, known for her work in studying how humans could survive in extreme conditions. About 200 individuals. Their vital signs are weak. The airlock connection was tricky. The alien ship systems were failing. Engineer Jinho worked for 20 minutes to make a safe seal. Finally, the door hissed open. The smell hit them first. It was like flowers mixed with something burning. Sweet and terrible at the same time. Then they saw the aliens. They looked almost human, but not quite. Their skin had a greenish tint like leaves in summer. Their hair moved slowly as if underwater and seemed to be made of thin vines. Their eyes were large and golden. Most of them were lying on the floor, too weak to move. An older alien woman crawled toward them. Her golden eyes were filled with tears. She spoke in broken English. "Please help. Children dying." "We're here to help," Tae-jin said slowly and clearly. "We're taking you to safety." The rescue took 4 hours. The medical team moved carefully, scanning each alien before transport. Dr. Haywan worked without stopping, her scanner moving from one alien to the next. The security team searched the ship for threats but found none. Only desperate, dying people. The last to leave was the old woman who had first spoken to them. She held the hand of a small child, barely conscious. "I am Nira," she said. "This is my daughter. We are Valim, our world, gone. Star died. Everything burned. Tae-jin helped her to the shuttle. You're safe now. We'll take care of you." On the Aurora station, the aliens were placed in quarantine, not as prisoners, but for safety. Dr. Haywan needed to make sure they carried no diseases harmful to humans, and that humans carried none harmful to them. The tests took 3 days. During that time, Tae-jin visited the quarantine area often. He watched as the Velim slowly recovered from their ordeal. They had been starving, he learned. Their food supplies had run out weeks ago. On the 4th day, Dr. Haywan called an emergency meeting. Her face was grim. "We have a problem." "A big problem?" She showed them the test results. The Velim didn't eat regular food like humans did. They needed something specific, a mineral compound that their bodies required to survive. Without it, they would die within 3 weeks. "Can we synthesize it?" Tae-jin asked. "Yes, but it would take months to produce enough," Haywan said. "They don't have months. They have weeks." "Maybe less. What about their fleet?" asked Minsu. They said this was a scout ship. Nira was brought to the meeting. She looked stronger now, but fear filled her eyes. Through a translator device that Jinho had quickly built, she explained their situation. 8,000 Velim survived the destruction of their world. They traveled in old ships, whatever they could find. This scout ship had come ahead to find help. The rest of the fleet was still months away, moving slowly with damaged engines. "We knew it was unlikely anyone would help us," Nira said, her translated voice sad. "But we had to try. For the children. We have 800 children in the fleet." The room fell silent. Tae-jin felt the weight of the decision pressing down on him. 8,000 lives. 800 children. All depending on what humanity decided to do next. "There is something," Dr. Haywan said hesitantly. "Earth's oceans contain trace amounts of the compound they need. Very small amounts. Extracting it would be incredibly expensive. It would require building new facilities, developing new technology. It could take years." "How long do we have?" Tae-jin asked. "They have enough reserves for 3 weeks. After that," Haywan didn't need to finish. That night, Tae-jin couldn't sleep. He walked through the station, looking out at Earth below. The blue planet turned slowly, peaceful and beautiful. He thought about the wars, about all the times humanity had failed to help each other, about all the times they had chosen fear over compassion. He thought about what kind of species humanity wanted to be. The next morning, he sent a message to Earth, to every government, every nation, every person who could help. The message was simple and clear. There are people dying in orbit above our world. They came to us asking for help. They have children who will die if we do nothing. I am asking humanity to be better than we have been. I am asking us to help. The response came within hours. It wasn't what he expected. It was better. The vote was close, but it passed. Earth would help the Velim. They would share their emergency rations while they worked on a permanent solution. They would build the extraction facilities. They would do whatever it took. When Tae-jin told Nira the news, she cried. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you do this for strangers?" Tae-jin smiled. Because someone should have done it for us. Because it's the right thing to do. Because maybe, just maybe, this is who humanity really is. He didn't know it then, but that decision would change everything. For Earth, for the Vellum, for the entire galaxy.